Have you checked your bank account lately? Because thousands of Social Security beneficiaries are waking up to unexpected lump sum deposits. And the amount is staggering. We're talking about payments nearing $7,000 just showing up in people's accounts. But here's the big question. Will you be getting one of these deposits too? And if not, why are some people receiving this money while others are not, even if they're on SSDI or SSI? Welcome to Social Security Posts, your go-to source for trusted, timely updates on Social Security benefits, retirement, disability, Medicare, and more. If you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a like so we can keep bringing you the information you need. And before we dive in, I want to hear from you if you have any questions about your Social Security benefits, especially SSDI, SSI, or retirement eligibility. Please drop them in the comments. We read every one and do our best to respond or feature them in upcoming videos. Now let's get into what's really happening with these large retroactive payments. Just recently, the Social Security Acting Commissioner made a public announcement confirming that these lump sum payments are actively being deposited into the accounts of eligible recipients and will be completed before the end of this month. That's not speculation. That's straight from the top of the Social Security Administration. And this isn't a vague promise or a delayed plan. It's happening right now, and many Americans are seeing the benefits already. What's even more surprising is the average payout, just under $7,000, with many individuals seeing exact numbers like $6,710 show up in their accounts. For most Americans, that kind of money can make a real difference, paying down debt, catching up on bills, or finally being able to afford the essentials that Social Security alone can barely cover. Imagine logging into your bank and seeing that amount waiting for you. It's not a dream for some, it's reality. But here's where things start to get confusing. Not everyone is receiving these payments. In fact, many viewers of this channel, especially those on SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSI, Supplemental Security Income, have been writing in and asking, will I be included, or where's my payment? That confusion is completely understandable, and I'm here to break it all down for you, what this lump sum payout actually is, who qualifies, and most importantly, who does. There's a specific reason behind these deposits. These are not stimulus payments. They're not monthly raises. They're retroactive lump sums related to new laws passed earlier this year, and unless you were impacted by certain provisions, like the WEPA-WOP windfall elimination provision or GPO, government pension offset, you might not see that money. We're going to go deep into that in the next section, so make sure you stick around. There's a lot of misinformation out there right now, and I want you to have the full, clear truth so you can plan accordingly. Again, if this kind of content helps you stay informed, please like this video, subscribe to Social Security Post, and don't forget to ask your questions in the comments. Whether you're receiving SSDI, SSI, or retirement benefits, your voice matters here. Let's keep going. What are these lump sum payments really all about? Now that we've introduced the buzz around these huge deposits, let's get into the heart of it. What exactly are these retroactive lump sum payments, and why are some Social Security recipients suddenly getting thousands of dollars out of nowhere? To put it simply, a retroactive payment is money owed to you from a previous period when you should have been receiving more in your monthly benefits, but didn't. The reason this is happening now ties back to a major change in federal law earlier this year, the Social Security Fairness Act. When this law was signed on January 5th, 2025, it eliminated two long-standing and highly criticized policies, the windfall elimination provision, GPO, and the government pension offset, GPO. Before we explain how that connects to these payments, imagine this. You were supposed to receive $300 more per month in benefits starting January 2024, but you didn't because of outdated rules. Fast forward to mid-2025, Social Security realizes the mistake, calculates what you should have received for the last 18 months, and sends you a one-time payment of $5,400 to make up for it. That's what a retroactive lump sum is. You're not being given a bonus. You're finally getting money you were already supposed to receive. Now, according to the SSA's own statement, the average payment amount is just under $7,000. And yes, that is per person, not a combined household amount. Some people are receiving slightly more or less depending on how much their benefits were previously reduced by WEP or GPO. These were provisions that unfairly penalized people who worked in jobs like firefighting, law enforcement, teaching, or other public service roles where they didn't pay into Social Security for all their career, but still earned benefits through other qualifying work. The SSA is currently catching up on these back payments and sending them out in waves. Some recipients got their lump sums in February, others in March and April, and now the SSA says everyone eligible will receive their payment before July. This has been confirmed by the acting commissioner of Social Security, and they're even pulling staff from other departments to make sure everything goes out on time. Now, here's a really important point. This payment is a one-time correction, not a recurring increase. After this lump sum is deposited, affected individuals will also see their monthly benefits adjusted higher going forward. So if your benefit should have gone up by $250 or $300 back in January 2024, you'll now get that increase every month, starting from your next payment. This is what makes these payments so significant. It's not just about getting a surprise check. It's about restoring financial justice to millions of Americans who were shortchanged for years. And if you're one of them, this money could make a real difference. Still not sure if this applies to you? We'll cover eligibility and who exactly qualifies next, so don't go anywhere. And again, if you're finding this video helpful, please take a second to like, subscribe to Social Security Post, and drop any questions in the comments. We want to hear your voice. Your situation matters. So we know these large retroactive lump sum payments are real, and we now understand what they are, but the timing might still feel confusing. Why are these payments being sent out now, over a year after they should have begun? Let's break that down. The answer lies in the timeline of legislation, government processing, and the mechanics of how major federal benefit changes are implemented. When the Social Security Fairness Act was signed into law on January 5th, 2025, it officially repealed two major rules: the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset GPO. These provisions were widely criticized for reducing Social Security benefits for certain workers, including retired public service employees, such as teachers, police officers, and postal workers. Even though the law was passed in early January, the adjustments and retroactive payouts didn't happen overnight. The Social Security Administration, SSA, needed time to update its systems, calculate who was impacted, determine how much was owed, and most importantly, verify the eligibility of every single beneficiary affected. With over 3 million people potentially eligible for these payments, that's no small task. The SSA began sending out the first wave of payments in late February, with additional deposits in March and April. The most recent announcement from the acting commissioner of Social Security, Frank Bisignano, stated that all remaining eligible individuals will receive their lump sum deposits by the end of June 2025, just before the new fiscal quarter begins. This phased rollout was necessary to prevent system overload, ensure accuracy, and manage budget logistics. Now, you may be wondering, why didn't the SSA just increase everyone's monthly benefits right away? That's a fair question, but remember, these retroactive payments involve going back 18 months to January 2024, the date when the benefit increases should have originally begun. Because WEAP and GPO were in effect until the law changed, those withheld funds have to be recalculated, verified, and then returned in a lump sum. And once that's complete, moving forward, the affected individuals will also receive their higher monthly benefit starting with their next check. SSA has also pulled internal staff from other departments to focus entirely on completing this payment rollout. They are aware that these delays affect real people who are waiting on this money to pay rent, cover medications, or simply keep up with rising living costs. So why now? Because the legislation has finally worked its way through the necessary stages, and SSA is doing everything possible to honor its commitment to the public. It's not perfect, and it's certainly not fast, but it's real, and it's happening now because the agency has reached a point where it can safely and accurately complete the process. Still curious about who actually qualifies? That's exactly what we'll cover next. But before we continue, if you're finding this video informative and helpful, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Social Security Post, and comment below with any questions you might have about your benefits. You're not alone. We're here to help you navigate every step. Now let's take a closer look at the law behind these retroactive payments. The Social Security Fairness Act. You might have heard the name floating around in the news or mentioned in other videos, but what does it really mean for Social Security recipients? More importantly, how did it create this wave of lump sum payments that's landing in some people's bank accounts today? The Social Security Fairness Act was signed into law by the president on January 5th, 2025, after years of lobbying by retirees, labor unions, and advocacy groups. This law was created to address two controversial policies that had been reducing benefits for millions of public sector workers across the country. the windfall elimination provision, GPO, and the government pension offset, GPO. These rules had long been criticized as unfair and confusing, and the act finally removed them. So let's break down what those two provisions actually did. First, the windfall elimination provision, WEP, reduced the Social Security benefits of people who worked in jobs not covered by Social Security, like teachers or police officers, but who also qualified for benefits due to work in other sectors. Essentially, WEP punished people who had mixed employment histories, treating them as if they were double dipping, even though they paid into the system just like everyone else. Next, the government pension offset, GPO, targeted spousal and survivor benefits. If you were receiving a government pension and were also eligible for Social Security as a spouse or widow/widower, the GPO could slash or even eliminate your Social Security benefits. The result? Some retirees saw their expected income reduced by hundreds of dollars each month, sometimes even more. These two policies combined affected over 3.2 million Americans, many of them senior citizens who had worked in public service for decades. When the Social Security Fairness Act repealed both WEP and GPO, it didn't just stop the reductions going forward, it also made the change retroactive to January 2024. That means anyone who was shortchanged from that point onward is now owed back pay. And that's what created these lump sum payments. To be clear, not everyone who is receiving Social Security is impacted by this law. It is only for those who had their benefits reduced under WEP or GPO. But for those who are, the change is monumental. Their monthly benefits are being adjusted permanently going forward. And they're also receiving a retroactive lump sum to make up for the 18 months of shortchanged payments. That's why this law is such a big deal. It's not just about money, it's about correcting a decades-old injustice. For many, this new law feels like long overdue recognition for their work and contributions. It restores trust in the system and helps bring financial stability to some of the country's most dedicated public servants. Coming up next, we'll talk about exactly who qualifies for these payments and why many others, especially SSDI and SSI recipients, are not included. But before we get there, please remember to like this video, subscribe to Social Post, and leave a comment below if you've ever been affected by WEP or GPO, or if you have any questions about your current benefits. Your story matters, and we're here to make sure it's heard. So now that we understand the Social Security Fairness Act and the repeal of WEP and GPO, the next big question is, who's actually getting these retroactive lump sum payments? And just as important, who's not? Because while millions of dollars are being distributed, the reality is that most Social Security beneficiaries are not seeing a dime from this particular payout. Let's start with who is eligible. According to the Social Security Administration, the recipients of these payments fall into three specific categories: retired workers, spousal beneficiaries, and survivor beneficiaries who were directly impacted by, the WEP or GPO provisions before their repeal. These are mostly individuals who worked in public service sectors such as police officers, firefighters, teachers, and postal workers who also held other jobs where they paid into the Social Security system. Before the Fairness Act, these individuals saw significant reductions in their monthly Social Security checks, despite having earned the right to those benefits. Now, under the new law, their payments are being recalculated and refunded retroactively to January 2024. As a result, they are receiving lump sum payments averaging close to $7,000, along with permanent increases to their monthly benefits going forward. The SSA has confirmed that 3.2 million people are impacted and all payments will be completed by the end of June 2025. But what about everyone else? Fortunately, if you're receiving SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSI, Supplemental Security Income, you are not included in this retroactive payout. And to be clear, this is not because SSA is ignoring you or leaving you behind. It's because the Fairness Act specifically targeted WEP and GPO, which did not affect SSDI or SSI recipients. These programs operate under different rules and were not influenced by the repealed provisions. Also, not even all retirees are included. If you were never subject to WEP or GPO reductions, say you worked only in Social Security covered jobs, then your benefits were never cut and you're not eligible for back pay. In fact, SSA has made it clear that only about 3 to 4% of the entire Social Security population qualifies for this payment. That means over 90% of beneficiaries will not see any retroactive deposit related to this change. Now, I know this can feel discouraging, especially when headlines make it seem like everyone is getting thousands of dollars, but the truth is more nuanced. The Social Security system is made up of multiple benefit tracks, and this particular law addressed only a very specific injustice within one of them. It's a targeted correction, not a broad stimulus. Coming up next, we'll talk directly to SSDI and SSI recipients and explain why you're not included and whether other programs might provide similar relief in the future. But before we get there, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Social Security Post so you never miss another update. And if you're unsure whether you or someone you know falls into one of the qualifying groups, drop a comment below. I'll do my best to help clarify your situation. Let's now turn to the question, are SSDI and SSI recipients included in these massive Social Security lump sum payments? The short answer, unfortunately, is no, and I want to take the time here to explain why that's the case clearly and respectfully. If you're receiving Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, or Supplemental Security Income, SSI, you are not included in this round of retroactive payments. And that can feel like a punch in the gut, especially when you're living on a fixed income, watching others get thousands of dollars while you're barely keeping the lights on. But this exclusion isn't personal. It's all about the scope of the law that caused these payments in the first place. These lump sum deposits are the result of the Social Security Fairness Act, which only addressed two specific problems: WEP, Windfall Elimination Provision, and GPO, Government Pension Offset. Both of these provisions dealt with retirement and spousal/survivor benefits, not disability or low income assistance programs like SSDI and SSI. So while these changes are a huge step forward for the roughly 3.2 million people affected by WEP and GPO, they don't change anything for the rest of the 65 million Americans receiving Social Security benefits. Here's the core difference. SSDI is a program for people who became disabled before reaching retirement age and have a work history that qualified them for disability benefits. SSI, on the other hand, is a needs-based program that provides financial help to people who are elderly, blind, or disabled and have very limited income and resources. Neither of these programs were tied to work situations that WEP and GPO punished. That's why SSDI and SSI recipients aren't being sent lump sum checks. There simply wasn't a provision in the Fairness Act that applied to them. Now, this doesn't mean that SSDI and SSI recipients will never be included in future updates or relief efforts. In fact, many lawmakers and advocacy groups are still pushing for reforms to raise monthly SSI payouts, update asset limits, and increase disability protections under the law. So while this particular round of payments may not include you, there is still reason to stay informed and keep your voice loud. These battles are ongoing. If you're feeling overlooked, I want you to know you're not alone. Millions of others in the exact same position are wondering when it will be their turn. And here on Social Security Post, we'll continue following every update, every proposal, and every decision in Washington that could affect your benefits, whether it's SSDI, SSI, or retirement. Coming up next, we're going to talk about why so many people feel left out and why even many retirees didn't receive a payment. But before that, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Social Security Post, and leave a comment below if you receive SSDI or SSI. Your situation matters. Let's make sure policymakers don't forget you. Now let's talk about something that goes deeper than laws and policies, feelings of being left behind. If you're receiving SSDI or SSI and you've just learned that you're not included in the lump sum payments being distributed, you might be feeling frustrated, ignored, or even angry. And that feeling is completely valid. In fact, millions of people in the Social Security system feel exactly the same way. Let's be honest. When the government announces that people are getting thousands of dollars in surprise payments and you're not one of them, it stinks, especially when you rely on every single dollar just to make ends meet. You might be asking, why is there always help for others, but not for me? You've worked, you've paid into the system, and in many cases, you're dealing with severe health issues that make everyday life incredibly hard, and yet your needs seem invisible to lawmakers. When the law reality is this: over 90% of Social Security recipients are not receiving these payments, and that includes a huge number of retirees, along with virtually every SSDI and SSI recipient. So if you're feeling alone, know that you're not. This was a very narrowly targeted correction related only to the WEP and GPO provisions, which impacted a small group of public sector workers and their families. It's not a broad stimulus or across the board raise, but the problem is it feels like one when you see so much attention and action being taken for one group while others are left waiting. This isn't the first time SSDI and SSI recipients have been excluded either. Remember during the pandemic? There were multiple rounds of stimulus payments where disability beneficiaries had to wait weeks or even months longer than others to receive their checks. Some didn't get them at all. And every time new legislation rolls around, the programs that serve the most vulnerable are either deprioritized or tacked on as an afterthought. What this points to is a much larger issue, the underrepresentation of disabled and low-income Americans in national policy decisions. SSDI and SSI recipients often don't have lobbyists or media coverage pushing their cause, but here's the good news. You do have a voice, and when that voice is organized, consistent, and informed, it can be powerful. That's why staying up to date and continuing to push for fairness matters more than ever. Here on Social Security Post, we're committed to shining a light on the parts of the Social Security system that don't get enough attention. Whether it's lack of COLA increases that keep up with inflation, outdated SSI asset limits, or disability backlogs that leave people waiting years for approval, we're going to keep telling these stories because they deserve to be told. So if you're feeling overlooked today, please don't give up. Like this video if you agree SSDI and SSI deserve more support. Subscribe to Social Security Posts so you never miss a critical update, and share your story in the comments below. We're building a community that refuses to be forgotten. So what happens after all these retroactive lump sum payments are finally deposited? What's next for Social Security recipients, both for those who received the payments and for the millions who didn't? This is where it gets interesting. And frankly, this is the part most people are not talking about, but you need to know. The Social Security Administration, SSA, has made it clear that all payments related to the WEP and GPO repeal under the Social Security Fairness Act will be fully deposited by the end of June 2025. That means within days, this particular payout chapter will close. The roughly 3.2 million beneficiaries who were owed money from January 2024 to now will have received it, and their monthly checks will be permanently adjusted going forward. Mission accomplished for them. But what about everyone else? What about the over 60 million Social Security recipients who didn't qualify for this back pay? The truth is, while this specific wave of payments is ending, the fight for Social Security fairness is far from over. In Washington, there are several ongoing conversations and even proposals about expanding benefits for other groups. One of the most urgent topics is SSI reform, particularly raising the income and asset limits that haven't been updated in decades. Another issue getting attention is improving COLA calculations, which many say don't keep up with real inflation for seniors and disabled individuals. And yes, there's even talk about whether SSDI rules need to be modernized to better reflect the economic challenges of the disabled community. Once the SSA completes this payment cycle, it frees up internal resources to start addressing other pending issues. That includes reducing wait times for benefit approvals, clearing out massive backlogs and disability claims, and improving systems for better transparency. While it may feel like the agency only focuses on one issue at a time, every completed task opens the door to the next policy priority. And now that this WEP/GPO task is nearing completion, SSDI, SSI, and other issues could finally get the attention they deserve. So here's the bottom line. If you received a payment, you're now in the adjusted benefit category and can expect higher monthly checks moving forward. If you didn't receive anything, you're part of the majority, and now is the time to stay informed, stay vocal, and make sure your issues remain on the table. Every benefit program deserves attention, not just the ones with the loudest voices or biggest headlines. And that's where Social Security Post comes in. We're going to keep tracking what happens next, what Congress does, what SSA focuses on, and what it all means for you, because this isn't just about money. It's about fairness, survival, and dignity. If you're still confused after watching this far, you're not alone. Many Social Security recipients are hearing about these big lump sum payments and wondering, am I supposed to get one too? Or was I somehow missed? If that sounds like you, don't worry. In this part of the video, we'll talk about exactly what you should do next to get clarity on your benefits and avoid falling into misinformation traps. First, let's start with the basics. If you're unsure whether you were impacted by WEP or GPO, the best thing you can do is check your Social Security benefits statement. You can access this by logging into your account at ssa.gov. If your benefit was being reduced due to WEP or GPO in the past, it should be reflected in the explanation of your monthly benefits. You'll usually see a note that says something like, windfall illumination provision has reduced your benefit by X amount. If that applies to you, you may be eligible for this retroactive payment, especially if the reduction was removed recently. Second, you can call the Social Security Administration directly. Their staff is trained to help verify your eligibility and provide updates on your specific case. While wait times can sometimes be long, many people find that calling early in the morning or late in the afternoon can reduce hold time. Be sure to have your Social Security number, mailing address, and a list of recent benefit deposits on hand. They'll need to verify your identity. Now let's talk about what not to do. Please be cautious of any emails, text messages, or phone calls claiming they can unlock your lump sum payment or help you claim one for a fee. These are scams. The SSA will never charge you to access your benefits, and you never need to pay a third party to receive a payment you're already owed. If a lump sum is due to you, it will be deposited automatically into your bank account or sent by mail to your listed address. Nothing more is required. You should also be wary of social media posts or videos that say everyone on Social Security is receiving a payment. That's simply not true. As we've covered, only about 3 to 4% of beneficiaries are included this time. The majority, including SSDI and SSI recipients, are not part of this round of back payments. So what should you do right now? If you think you might be eligible, check your SSA statement, call the SSA, and double check your bank records. If you know you're not eligible but want to stay informed about future benefit changes, make sure to subscribe to Social Security Post so you can stay up to date with clear, honest information. And if you're feeling left out, remember, this isn't the end of the road. There are other reforms in the works, and your story still matters. Now that we've covered everything from the origin of these lump sum payments to who qualifies, why others were excluded, and what to do if you're confused, let's wrap this up with some final thoughts and next steps. First and foremost, if you didn't receive one of these retroactive Social Security payments, I want you to know you are not alone. This wasn't a universal payout. In fact, over 90% of Social Security beneficiaries were not included in this initiative. It was designed to correct a very specific issue, reversing the unfair penalties caused by the WEP and GPO provisions that impacted mostly retired public service workers and their spouses. That means most SSDI, SSI, and even many regular retirees did not qualify. If you're one of the few who did qualify, congratulations. Hopefully that lump sum provides some financial breathing room and the monthly benefit increase helps in the long term. But if you're not part of that group, don't lose hope. This payout may be done by the end of this month, but the conversation about Social Security fairness is far from over. There are major issues still on the table, from inadequate COLA increases that don't match inflation to outdated income and asset limits in SSI, to long wait times and strict eligibility rules for SSDI. These are real challenges that affect millions of seniors and disabled Americans every day. And there are lawmakers and advocacy groups fighting to fix them, but they need our support, and your voice is a part of that process. That's why this channel exists at Social Security Post. We don't just read headlines, we dig deep. We follow legislation, monitor SSA announcements, and speak directly to what impacts real people like you. Whether it's a change in benefit eligibility, a surprise announcement from Washington, or a confusing letter in the mail, we're here to make it clear, simple, and actionable. So here's what you can do next. Like this video if it helped you understand what's happening with these payments. Subscribe to Social Security Post to get notified the moment something changes. And most importantly, leave a comment below with your situation, your questions, or even your frustration. We read every comment. You matter here. Your experience might help someone else watching, and your questions could shape our next video. And let's leave you with this. Social Security is not a handout. It's something you earned. Whether you're on SSDI, SSI, or retirement benefits, you paid into this system, you contributed, and you deserve respect, transparency, and fairness in return. These payments are a reminder that sometimes this system can work, but we have to hold it accountable. And we will. Thanks so much for watching Social Security Post. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. We'll be here to keep you informed every step of the way.